All right, let's jump right into this preseason Week 3 clash at Lucas Oil Stadium. Welcome to this explainer where we are breaking down the Detroit Lions visiting the Indianapolis Colts. Now, you and I both know that because this is the preseason finale, we're dealing with some massive unknowns when it comes to snap counts and depth chart rotations. So to really get a grip on what's going to happen on the gridiron, we have to lean on a strict, evidence-based tactical logic model. We're going to separate verified historical data from all that preseason noise to build a really robust scouting report. Here's a quick look at our itinerary for this explainer. We'll move logically from the setup and those quarterback baselines, straight through the tactical duels, live game states, and finish up with our model estimates. We won't spend much time here, but this is exactly how we're going to tackle the whole tactical picture today.
Section 1. The setup and central question.
Okay. Before we even peek at the numbers, here is the absolute golden question we have to ask ourselves. Can Detroit's timing-based passing game actually operate against Indianapolis's coverage rotation and simulated pressure? See, Detroit's most effective opening script relies entirely on rhythm. We're talking quick completions, play action, on-schedule throws that force Indy to declare its hand. Are the Colts staying in a too-high safety structure or rotating late to single high? But if the Colts can successfully muddy the waters and disrupt that timing with simulated pressures without even needing to bring a heavy blitz, they literally erase the biggest advantage of Detroit's scheme.
Moving on to Section 2, quarterback baselines and identities. Let's use 2025 data to frame the true identities of these offenses, rather than guessing Saturday's exact workload. Just look at these baselines side by side. Both of these clubs enjoyed some seriously efficient veteran quarterback play last year. Jared Goff gives the Lions a rock-solid floor, hitting on 68% of his passes, 7.9 yards per attempt, an awesome 34 touchdowns to just 8 interceptions, while taking 38 sacks. On the other side, Daniel Jones, newly re-signed by the Colts, offers a very similar, highly efficient profile over his 13 starts in 2025. Also a 68% completion rate, 8.1 yards per attempt, 19 touchdowns, 8 picks, and a remarkably clean 5.3% sack rate. Both guys prioritize on-schedule throws and quick outlets to avoid late, turnover-worthy mistakes. But remember, we're using these historical facts to establish a structural floor, not to predict their 2026 preseason expected points added or how long they'll even be on the field this weekend.
So why do we rely so heavily on this preseason baseline? It's crucial because we have to separate hard evidence from August illusions. Take the Colts so far this preseason, right? A 13-13 tie with New England and a 34-6 loss to Atlanta. Those games are incredibly limited, rotation-heavy samples. They're way too small to establish any sort of reliable efficiency profile. We use our baseline to understand what the underlying scheme actually wants to accomplish, fully knowing at the second those third stringers trot onto the field, structural continuity pretty much flies right out the window.
Section 3. Key matchups and tactical duels.
Now that we've got our baselines locked in, let's break down the actual trench warfare that's going to decide this game. Because in the preseason, total yardage means next to nothing. It's all about down-to-down execution at the line of scrimmage. For Detroit's defense, a win means holding Indy's early down runs to minimal gains without having to stack the box with extra defenders. Doing that forces predictable Colts dropbacks. For Indy's O-line, an advantage looks like combination blocks opening up clean lanes for their backs. Also, watch the pressure before the release. And hey, quick warning here, do not overread total sack counts in August. Preseason quarterbacks hold the ball forever, and backup linemen get fooled by basic stunts all the time. What actually matters is whether the pressure is arriving before the quarterback can complete his initial read.
Taking it a step further, I want you to keep your eyes glued to these 3 very specific tactical duels. First, Detroit's offensive timing versus Indy's simulated pressure, like we touched on earlier. Second, pay attention to the Colts' protection plan against the Lions' defensive front. Indianapolis desperately needs quick decisions and firm interior blocking to avoid those negative first down plays that just completely expose backup pass protectors. And third, watch the Detroit skill players matched up against the Colts secondary. The Colts have got to prioritize leverage, communicate perfectly through pre-snap motion, and make solid tackles at the catch point. Because if ordinary, short Detroit completions start turning into explosive plays through yards after the catch, it's going to be a really long afternoon for Indianapolis.
Section 4. Preseason variables and field position.
Before we jump into live game flow, we have to talk about the crazy, high-variance stuff that is completely unique to preseason week 3. In the regular season, offensive efficiency is everything. In August, hidden yardage is king. Net starting field position is literally the special team stat that matters most right now. A blocked punt, a dumb return penalty, or just consistent drives starting near midfield will completely tilt a preseason game, way more than a slight edge in yards per play. Plus, red zone finishing is super volatile right now. Coaches are evaluating fringe roster kickers or backup QBs. They aren't out there optimizing fourth down decisions to maximize win probability. So context is absolutely everything here. A touchdown scored on a short field tells us way less about an offense than a grueling, sustained 70-yard drive.
Okay, Section 5, Live, Cues, and Game States. Let's walk through our conditional if-then viewing cues, because with unverified snap counts, you have to read this game dynamically as it happens. In the first quarter, honestly, just ignore the scoreboard at first. Figure out who is actually playing. What's the quarterback rotation? Are they getting early down success? Once we hit the first half substitutions, that's when you reassess. If both backup offenses are suddenly staring at third and longs and can't protect the passer, the scoring environment is actively tanking. And if we get a tight one-score game in the fourth quarter, forget about Jared Goff's 2025 stats. They mean nothing now. It becomes entirely a game of backup pass protection and avoiding negative plays. Keep in mind, a third-string quarterback throwing an interception in the red zone does not mean the starting offense is broken. So how should you actually interpret the scoreboard once it gets going? Well, if Indy builds an early lead at home, ask yourself, did they earn it through clean pass protection and consistent early down success that forced Detroit into long fields? If they just got a lucky isolated turnover, Detroit probably still holds the tactical edge. On the flip side, if Detroit goes up early, are they executing routine completions without turning it over, forcing the Colts out of their run-action comfort zone? Ultimately, the best live signal you can look for is to favor whichever team is consistently winning normal field early downs right after that first big wave of substitutions. That is the true test of a roster's depth. Finally, Section 6, Model Estimates and Final Verdict. We've layered in the historical data, the matchups, the situational cues. Now let's look at what the math actually says. And honestly, it really highlights the razor-thin margins of August football. Our model gives the Detroit Lions a narrow 52.2% probability to win, with the Colts right there at 45.8% and a 2.0% chance of a draw. Detroit holds this very slight conditional edge mainly because their established veteran QB floor on the active roster is just a bit stronger, even on the road. Oh, and that 2% draw? That just reflects the reality that preseason games can end in regulation ties. Our overtime probability is strictly set at 0%, since NFL exhibition games usually don't play extra periods.
Now, for the pace of the game, this is the magic number, 38. Our model estimates we're going to see roughly 10 to 12 possessions per side. When you factor in the inevitable drop in offensive continuity as we get deep into the second half rotations, plus standard indoor conditions at Lucas Oil Stadium, we land on a projected median total of 38 points.
Breaking that 38 points down, our model estimates a final score of Detroit 20, Indianapolis 18. But remember all those tactical caveats we just talked about? This is highly conditional. If Daniel Jones and the Colts' first-string offensive line end up playing a workload that matches or even exceeds Detroit starters, that 2-point advantage for the Lions is pretty much wiped out. Detroit's path to victory completely depends on their first unit playing clean, on-schedule football, while hoping Indianapolis stumbles with pass protection or negative plays on early downs.
I want to leave you with this absolutely vital sports analytics disclaimer. This is a high uncertainty preseason model estimate, not a market line, and not a claim that Goff or Jones will start. There is no pregame betting recommendation here simply because availability and snap counts are entirely unverified right now. So when those backups take the field in the third quarter, which coaching staff is going to adapt their protection schemes the fastest? It really leaves us with a fascinating question. In a league completely obsessed with superstar quarterbacks, does the true foundation of a championship team actually live deep down in the depth chart of the offensive line? Keep your eyes on the trenches this Saturday to find out. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.